Welcome. This video is a slideshow presentation from the Unicon series of informational slideshows. This presentation provides a high-level overview of the type of issues that can be addressed in preparing for undertaking a migration project that involves converting COBOL code to C# or Java, and in particular, what can be done to prepare the actual COBOL code in the programs that are to be converted to enable them to be more effectively converted to C# or Java so that the converted code is easy to understand and maintain. This presentation does not apply to converting from traditional legacy mainframe COBOL to Micro Focus Visual COBOL. Converting to Visual COBOL requires no preparation to the original COBOL code, since Visual COBOL is 100% backwards compatible to the codicil ANSI standard statements in the original legacy mainframe COBOL. There are obviously changes that the legacy COBOL to Visual COBOL code converters need to perform regarding the screens and database interfaces, but that is not the subject of this video. That process is explained in other videos that can be viewed on our YouTube channel called Platform Migration. This presentation only applies when converting the traditional legacy mainframe COBOL to C# or Java. The concept of this presentation arose from an internal Unicon discussion, which was reviewing the list of questions that clients typically asked of us when they are planning to migrate their legacy mainframe COBOL applications to C# or Java. We are always asked the question, is there anything that can be done to the existing COBOL code to make it easier to convert to C# or Java? And when we answer yes, the next question is always, so what can be done? The answer to this question is the core content of this presentation. However, there are also other questions that feature very strongly in the list of questions we are asked, the main ones of which are as follows, but in no particular order. Is preparation of the COBOL code worth the effort? Are there any golden rules to follow? What should be the objectives of converting COBOL code to C# or Java? Is there anything we should not do? What are the biggest risks? What can we do to mitigate those risks? So let's start with the question, what should be the objectives of performing a migration project to convert COBOL code to C# or Java? This may sound a strange statement to make, but the process of performing an efficient migration project should not be viewed as the primary objective of a migration effort. The objective of a migration project should be totally focused on ensuring that the converted C# or Java programs will be a sound foundation for the future. The migration process is planned to be a one-off event, but the migrated application will be around for years to come. The efficiency of the migration project is of no benefit if the migrated system is difficult to enhance or maintain and slow to run. The converted C# or Java programs must be at least as easy to enhance and maintain as the original COBOL program. The converted C# or Java programs must be at least as fast to run as the original COBOL program. And it must be constructed of normal C# or Java statements. It should not be constructed of statements that call black box classes that emulate the original COBOL statements. Next question, are there any golden rules to follow? Treat the migration of the various components of the application as one integrated project. Do not perform the migration of the screens, programs, JCL, data, etc. as separate independent tasks. If it is decided to use separate teams to perform these various tasks, then start by everyone agreeing on the parameters that must be used by each team so that the different parts will work together. Do not burden the migrated code or data with any unique legacy features or functions that were provided for in the legacy component that was being used, but never used in the original application. For example, we were once asked to review and assist in determining why a migration project was not proceeding very well. The project was grossly over budgeted cost and estimated timeframe. We found that the people who were performing the project were highly skilled and highly knowledgeable of the components to be migrated. Major components, screens, programs, JCL, and database were being converted by separate teams. The SQL Server conversion of the old codicil network database covered everything that the original database did. It had been an amazing technical achievement, but a very expensive and time-consuming effort. However, it was very slow in operation. We found the converted database feature that was causing the poor performance, and then found that the feature was never used by the original programs. When the feature was removed from the converted SQL Server database, the converted application ran extremely well, far faster than the original. If this determination had been done before the start of the project, then the project would not have been over budget and time frame. The migrated application should be a true C# or Java application, not a quasi C# COBOL or Java COBOL application. If the converted applications are to be enhanced and maintained by C# or Java programmers, then don't expect those programmers to understand the nuances of code that calls classes that emulate COBOL statements. Test, test, test. Every code and data item in the original application programs and the data definitions in every data file has changed. The migrated application must be rigorously tested. Is there anything that can be done to the existing COBOL code to make it easier to convert to C# or Java? The answer to that question is yes. COBOL has many features and facilities that C# and Java do not do very well, or even do not do at all. These COBOL constructs are very commonly used because they are very effective in providing for the efficient processing of the data. Many of the more complex code and data constructs that become part of the converted C# or Java code were generated to accommodate these missing functions and features. If the COBOL constructs that cannot directly be handled in C# or Java are coded out of the original COBOL programs, then the resulting C# or Java code is much cleaner and therefore easier to enhance and maintain. So what can be done? The numeric definitions of comp, binary, comp3, and sun included do not need to be removed. The conversion process you choose should be completely capable of very effectively handling this issue. There are, however, a number of very common COBOL coding constructs that do need to be removed to make the converted C# or Java code easier to generate and produce cleaner, more easily understood C# or Java code. All COBOL redefines need to be removed. C# or Java do not support COBOL-style redefinitions of data areas. Here are some examples of COBOL redefinitions. Example 1 defines a data area as an alphanumeric variable that can therefore be tested for spaces. And if found to be not spaces, the redefining numeric variable can be used to process the numeric contents of the data area. Example 2 redefines a data area that was defined as one variable name with a different variable name. Example 3 is reusing what used to be a comment area to sometimes contain numeric data variables, and then testing the numeric redefining variables as being numeric to determine if a numeric value has been stored in what used to be the comment area. It really does not matter why the redefinitions were done. They need to be removed. If necessary, the redefining variables must be added to the end of the data area as separate independent fields. It is highly advisable to remove all unnecessary nested group data items from the original COBOL code. C# and Java code can be generated to handle these nested data areas, but the resultant converted C# or Java code will be more complicated than it needs to be. For example, this COBOL record definition has nested group data items. This is what it will be converted to using the simplest possible C# structure definitions. It is a fairly complex looking piece of code, and this is a very simple record definition. If we review the original COBOL definition and identify the nested group data items and then remove them to get a single level subdefinition of the customer record, then the converted C# or Java definition will be much simpler and much easier to understand in the new C# or Java program. But if the COBOL group level items were used to move around data in the original COBOL program, then the original COBOL program must be modified to move the lower level field definitions instead of the group level definitions which have been removed. If it is considered that it would be helpful to convert the group level definitions to comment lines, then the original COBOL definition would look like this. This would be converted to look like this, which would preserve the comment lines in the converted code. There is another reason why it is beneficial to remove the data group items. This is the original COBOL definition we looked at before with the nested group items and the converted C# code. The red highlighting identifies the custzip4 field and the group levels that it belongs to, both in the original COBOL code and the converted C# code. In the COBOL program, the custzip4 field will be identified as either custzip4 or custzip4 of customer record. But most commonly, if there were no other custzip4 definitions in the COBOL program, it would just be referred to as custzip4. In the converted C# program, the custzip4 field would always be identified with its full structure reference, which would be coded as customer record dot custlocation dot custzip dot custzip4. This leads to much more complex looking code. If we don't have the nested group data items in the original COBOL, then the converted C# program would only need to reference the custzip4 field as customer record dot custzip4. So the converted C# code would benefit from a much simpler syntax, both in the definitions of the data and the logic code referencing of the data fields. The COBOL Goto statements should also be removed. C# does support the Goto statement, but not to the same extent that COBOL does. COBOL typically uses the Goto statement to manage the major logic paths in a program. C# would typically limit the use of the Goto statements to branching out of a set of nested if statements. Java does not support the Goto statement at all. It would be significantly better to remove all Goto statements from the original COBOL programs to be converted. The perform through statements should be removed. If a COBOL program contains the statement perform P101 logic through P104 logic, and the program has 4 paragraphs coded in sequential order as follows: P101 logic, P102 logic, P103 logic, P104 logic, then the perform through statement could be recoded as perform P101 logic, perform P102 logic, perform P103 logic, perform P104 logic. Redesign and recode all multi-record files to be constructed as single record files. This is a much more difficult removal process. This is not a complete list of all the things that could be done to change the original COBOL program, but they will provide a significant benefit. Is the preparation of the COBOL code worth the effort? When the COBOL applications have been migrated to C# or Java, it is not unreasonable to expect that the converted applications may be used for the next 20 plus years. If the COBOL programs are not prepared as we discussed, then the converted C# or Java code has to be generated to incorporate a good deal of complex coding that can be completely avoided if the COBOL programs are pre-cleaned. Anything that can be done to make the converted C# or Java code easier to enhance and maintain is very much worth the doing and will save a lot of time, effort, and cost over the coming years of service with the converted application. Cleaning the COBOL code of constructs that would generate a lot of complex C# and Java code, if it were not cleaned, will also greatly reduce the inherent risks in the migration project. Is there anything we should not do? Do not use a conversion process whereby the converted C# or Java code is constructed of calls to black box classes that emulate the original COBOL statements. This is a disastrous path to tread. For example, this is a small sample of original COBOL code. This is the code converted to Java using normal Java statements. It is really easy to compare the two and see that they perform the same fundamental logic. It is also really easy to independently look at the Java code and directly see what it is doing. This is the type of conversion process that we strongly recommend. This is the same COBOL code converted to Java, whereby the Java statements invoke Java classes that emulate the original COBOL statements. It is very difficult to look at the converted code and directly see what it is doing. It is very difficult to maintain and enhance this kind of code. The converted program is truly written in Java, but it is not the type of conversion process that we would recommend. Do not start a COBOL to C# or Java migration project until you have reviewed the code that will be generated and found it to be easily understandable and maintainable code. The best way to undertake this due diligence is to perform a small pilot project. Do not start a migration project if there are other projects that are in progress or planned during a migration project timeframe that will create a large number of changes to the original COBOL code. To do so creates a major overhead on the project in trying to update the new changes into the converted code. Do not plan to incorporate changes to the application code as part of the main migration project. This significantly increases the already high risk. Do not underestimate the testing effort. It is the quality of the testing process that is the main means of mitigating the inherent risk. What are the biggest risks? Converting COBOL applications to C# or Java are notoriously very high-risk projects. It isn't very difficult to understand why, in these projects, everything but everything goes through dramatic change. Every data storage definition and every logic statement on every line in the COBOL program source code is changed to C# and Java data types and code syntax. There is no commonality between the two data and code sets. Additionally, the COBOL source code includes many commonly used COBOL facilities that C# and Java just cannot do, and complex workarounds have to be inserted into the generated C# or Java code. But by far the biggest risk is created because the new converted and tested C# or Java application has to be implemented in one big bang approach. It is virtually impossible to perform a phased implementation because the code and data storage of the original application and the converted application are simply not compatible one with the other. What can we do to mitigate the risks? Perform a comprehensive and detailed review of the many issues that are concerned in a platform migration project, particularly because COBOL to C# or Java is a very risky endeavor. The best way to ensure that you have chosen the right migration path for your unique needs and circumstances is to perform a small pilot project to validate and authenticate the chosen migration process before you start on the main project. The pilot project will also enable you to fine-tune the process and, most importantly, get a much better understanding of the tasks to be performed, better estimate the resources they will need, and the timeframes it will take to perform the critical vital tasks of thoroughly testing the converted application. You should also consider using the Unicon incremental reengineering process that completely removes the high risks. The videos that are referenced on this slide can be viewed on our YouTube video channel, which is called Platform Migration. They can also be accessed via our website, uctnet.com, under the Unicon tab. The two videos that are referenced in this particular presentation are Assessment Study and Incremental Reengineering. Thank you for viewing this video. I hope it has been useful. If you would like to see any of the other Unicon information videos, please contact us and tell us which subject or subjects you would like to see. Thank you.